So welcome everyone. I'm Leora Gill. I'm the chapter chair. And tonight we have someone that I've heard before and I liked her so much I had to have her at the FBMG tonight. So I would like to introduce you to Paula and you can decide for yourself.
Thank you. It was a really, really hot day here in Dallas, and I was running between appointments. And I went into one of my favorite cafes, La Madeleine, to meet a woman named Karen, who I had never met before. And I found Karen and I sat down and I said, "Hey, Karen, I am not as prepared for today's conversation as I should be. I printed out your resume and left it on my desk in the office. And I neglected to look at your LinkedIn profile. Help me out here. Tell me about yourself." And this is what I learned from Karen. She said, "My name is Karen. I'm a vice president of marketing at Mary Kay Cosmetics. And I've been at Mary Kay in marketing for 18 years. And she said, in those 18 years, I have done everything in marketing." Karen said, "Well, Paula, you know Mary Kay, we do big events. I've done events." She says, "I've worked with our global sales staffs, helping them with presentations." She says, "I've worked with our manufacturers on issues around packaging. And then I've done more traditional marketing work. I've done collateral. I've done advertising." She says, "I've worked with our teams on both qualitative and quantitative research." And she's going on, telling me all the things that she's done. She's worked online with Pinterest and Facebook. She's worked offline with things like outdoor. And Karen is going on. And what's happening to me is in my head, I am hearing, so what? So what? So what? Because I ask everyone in the audience who has had a career and knows people in marketing, who raises to the position of a vice president of marketing in a global company like Mary Kay is, and who hasn't done collateral, and who hasn't done advertising, and who hasn't supervised market research, and who hasn't done landing pages or worked with Pinterest? Of course, those are the experiences that make her promotable into the job that she has today. So I said, "Karen, let's stop this. Let me ask you something a little different." I said, "Karen, because I live here in Dallas where Mary Kay is headquartered, I want to say that Mary Kay looks a little differently to me than it has in the past. What's that about?" And she says, "Well, thank you for noticing, Paula. That is our updated brand." I said, "Oh, okay, well, that's interesting. Tell me about that." She says, "Well, part of the leadership, or myself as part of the leadership team, about 16 months ago, we went off to a woods weekend. And in that woods weekend, we were inventing the company 10 years into the future. And we all came away from that woods weekend with assignments about how we were going to help the company become that company of the future. And I took the issue of branding." I said, "Well, that's interesting. So what came of that?" And she said, "Well," she said, "we accomplished what I set out to do." Now, Karen is a smart vice president of marketing. She knew all her KPIs. She said, "I did pre and post brand testing in the marketplace, and I really wanted to move the needle and make some of the attributes of Mary Kay fall into the background. You know, that kind of white hair, puffy lady looking thing." He says, "I wanted to take some attributes and move them into the foreground." And I did. I said, "Well, that's good news." I said, "Karen, how much of that work got done by you instigating it, doing it yourself, or approving the work?" And she said, "Oh, 100%. She said, "We did not hire a branding company or a marketing company." She said, "Two of my colleagues and myself inside the company, we were self-taught what branding was. We did some studying about it. We did some best practices work and did it ourselves." So now here's something that I learned about Karen. Here she took kind of a dated brand and moved the needle, made things happen, and her fingerprints are all over it. I said, Karen, if I heard you correctly, are you an expert at revitalizing tired brands? And Karen had a light bulb moment. Yes, Paula, I can say that I know how, I can be an expert at revitalizing tired brands. That is an example of an art of hello introduction. Let me ask you. Hi, I'm Karen. I'm a vice president of marketing. I do collateral, I do Pinterest, I do market research, yada, 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 yada. Or my name is Karen. I'm a vice president of marketing. I revitalize tired brands. Boom. That's what it sounds like. Here's something that I neglected to tell you when I met Karen. It was 2009. Anybody who's my age knows what's happened in 2008, 9, maybe even part of 10. It was a horrible economy. Karen was the vice president of marketing for Mary Kay Cosmetics, but she would only have that job one more week. She was sent to me by a mutual friend to do some networking because she was going to be put out of a job. She was about to head into the labor market, a crowded one there were very few jobs to fill, saying, I do this and 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 I do this, and turn on somebody's who cares meter or so what meter. Instead, now she had something very definitive to say about herself, very impactful. The rest of the time that Karen and I had together, we didn't talk about anything else, but we sat there and listed all the Dallas area companies that had tired brands that would need her expertise. It was successful. She did land a job soon thereafter. In the bright yellow bar at the bottom, I have something called an archetype. In this case, this is the biggest, baddest thing that Karen had ever done in her career, is to renovate, revive, modernize that Mary Kay brand. The biggest, baddest thing she's ever done. And maybe when we're done together today, after the next 50 or 55 minutes, you'll consider this, consider what you've done that's the biggest, baddest thing in your career, and maybe choose to introduce yourself by that. Let me take a minute and stop and tell you about myself. My name is Paula Calise. I am an executive recruiter, and I fill hard to fill positions. Pretty much that's what I'd like you to remember about me. Paula Calise, I fill hard to fill positions. And the reason it's really important for me to be known that way is because about 10 years ago, I stopped making sales calls, and my company has thrived in those years because 100% of my business is either repeat or referral, and the referrals come from people like you who know exactly what I do and can refer me. So those are two people you've met with Art of Hello introductions, Karen and Paula. Let me introduce you to another friend of mine. Every few minutes I'll stop, by the way, and I'll ask Leora to see if we've got any new questions. So please put your questions in chat and I'll stop and answer them. Let me introduce you to my friend Shauna Black. So I met Shauna Black. We were both new business owners. It was a decade ago. And she introduced herself, I introduced myself, and then I did not see Shauna for a long time. The summer of 2019, might be the last time we ever got out, right? The summer of 2019, I saw Shauna at a lectern introducing the speaker at an event. And I said, oh, I know that woman. And I went up to her afterward and I stuck out my hand, I introduced myself and I said, and I know you, Shauna. And I said, don't tell me. I said, you're Shauna Black. You help manufacturing plants become LEED certified. You know, LEED is green. And Shauna goes, wow, Paula, I don't think we've seen each other in a very long time. How did you remember that? I said, well, Shauna, you're the first, last, and only person I've ever met in my life that has said, I help manufacturing plants become LEED certified. I did not know it that many years ago that she had a perfect Art of Hello introduction for herself, but it turns out she certainly did because it stuck to me. And in those 10 years, because of my profession and because I'm on boards and because I was born without the shy gene, I've met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of people, but I remember Shauna Black. The archetype on this one is my newest accomplishment. Because what Shauna did not say to me that day is she did not say, oops, excuse me. She did not say to me, Paula, I'm Shauna Black. I'm starting a consulting practice. I have been with Texas Instruments for 20 years. I'm going to have to stop. My husband let a pet in the house. It's driving me crazy. Okay, sit down. I don't know, I may have to throw him out. Anyway, what she didn't say to me is, I've spent 20 years with Texas Instruments. I have a master's double E degree. I have risen in the ranks there, and I've spent the last 3 years circumventing the globe, bringing Texas Instruments plants up to snuff in LEED certification. She didn't tell me any of that. She said, I help manufacturing plants become LEED certified, and that's what I remembered. So now you've met 3 people. You've met Karen, I revitalize tired brands. You've met Paula, I fill hard to fill positions. And now you've met Shauna, I help manufacturing plants become LEED certified. They all have a certain cadence about them. They're all short, they're all definitive. They all tell you about what this person does and why they can be called upon to, it's their brand promise, right? So I'm going to stop first, Leora, and let me ask, are there any questions now? If not, I'm going to keep going.
No, there's nothing yet.
Okay, so here's what the art of hello is. It is the distillation of your professional life. It is not everything you've ever done. It is not every credential you've ever had. It's not the long form. It is the distillation of your professional life. It has to be meaningful. I see a lot of things that on top of LinkedIn profiles, and it's just a bunch of jibber jabber, and I'm going, I don't know what that means. Got to be authentic. If you can't produce it, don't say it. It's got to be unambiguous. It can't be, you can't be using words that people are going, I wonder what that means. Because the minute you lose their attention, you've lost their attention. Whatever connection you hope to make is not going to be made. It differentiates you. And you know what? I went and looked in my files for people who have financial backgrounds like your own. And I have a long list of things that people say about themselves with art of hello introductions. Later on, I'll read some of them to you. None of them are the same. And we'll see why. It's because each of us have a different set of experiences. We're different people approaching issues and problems. So we have something different to say about ourselves. And the best part is, done right, it's memorable. So that's what it is. The distillation of your professional life is your art of hello introduction. And at the bottom, it says, done right, your art of hello introduction is your brand promise. So when you think about Karen, I revitalize tired brands, that's not only her introduction, that's what she promises her next employer. When I say I feel hard to fill positions, I mean it. That's the kind of work that I do, and my clients rely on me to accomplish that. When Shauna says she helps manufacturing plants become LEED certified, that's what she delivers. So it's interesting. It is a beautiful two-sided coin. On one side, the art of hello introduces you. On the other side, it tells people what they can expect of you. It's your brand promise. Wow, that's a lot of work on the back of a few words. Done right. It really works. Now, this is where, when we're all together in one room, which someday maybe we'll be again, I get one question asked all the time. Paula, I am more than a one-liner. And I'm going to tell you, absolutely you are, and so am I. Your art of hello introduction is the jumping off point to get to know you. It's the jumping off point for your brand. It's the jumping off point to make a connection with a person in such a way that you'll have a significant opportunity to be remembered. What I say at the bottom of this is pillars fill out your story. So I'm going to continue to work with you to understand what an art of hello introduction is, how you formulate one for yourself, but it's not the end all be end all. Pillars are support structures, are they not? Pillars support and define and reinforce and fill out your art of hello introduction. So if we were all together, we would raise our hands, we'd come up with some ideas. Well, let me just give you one or two of mine. So because I know me and it's quicker, when I meet a hiring manager, and I do all the time, I say, I'm Paula Calise. I fill hard to fill positions. And when the opportunity arises for the conversation to go farther, I say, I fill jobs, Phil, like you would for yourself with you if you had the time. So for hiring managers, I'm all about saving them time. If I meet Tom, and Tom is the vice president of human resources or the vice president of recruiting or talent management, he has a different point of view. I might say, I'm going to help fill this critical role, and I'm going to impact your budget by half of what it would cost you to hire the likes of Korn Ferry, Spencer Stewart, Heidrick and Struggles, and you're going to get the same outcome. So when I'm talking to a hiring manager, I'm saving them time. When I'm talking to somebody who has the budget for recruiting, I'm saving them money at the high quality of a company like Korn Ferry. And I know I'm going to say these to these kind of people. I don't have to think of it. I'm not a deer in a headlight. What do I say next? I have probably 8 or 10 things that I say that are my pillars that I've already thought about, designed, memorized, and I pull them out of the hat when the conversation allows me to add color commentary to who I am. Together, this is a phenomenal tool. It's going to be great during job interviews. It's great when you meet people for the first time. It's great when you use it in other places like LinkedIn and so forth. Okay, I'm going to go on again unless we have a question.
Yes, we do. We have a
Good.
question about how brief and concise should the intro be compared to an elevator pitch?
Oh my gosh, who said that? I love that person.
Tom Nahila? I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Very nice. Okay. Well, I'm going to, you know what? We're just a slide or two premature to talk about the elevator speech, but I'm going to come back to that and I'm going to give you a live example of what an elevator speech is versus what an art of hello introduction is. And you can see the compare and contrast yourself. In fact, I am writing a book, and part of the title of the book is Debunking the Old-Fashioned Elevator Speech, which is also called the 30-second drill by some people. So we're going to come back and exactly answer that question because I'm excited to have it. Thank you. All right, let's keep going. So this is a jumping off point. I want to tell you about another friend of mine. Her name is Jennifer. Not everybody is like myself and like Karen and like Shauna, with long careers. We have something overarching to say about ourselves. Some people who can still use an art of hello introduction are earlier in their careers. So I have been a mentor and a speaker in the EMBA program a few minutes from my house at Southern Methodist University at SMU. I speak to MBAs there and I speak to the law school there. And I went to an EMBA cocktail reception and everyone's wearing their badges. I introduced myself and I approached a woman named Jennifer. And Jennifer's a young person. And I know because she's getting an EMBA that she works during the day. So I said to her, hey, Jennifer, nice to meet you. When you're not studying for your MBA, what do you do? And this is what I got from young Jennifer. Really, guys, she's looking at her shoes. She says, I have a boring job. I'm a water engineer. Whoa, you don't start with I have a boring job. That's not the right way to do it. But she says, I have a boring job. I'm a water engineer. I got to tell you, I have filled close to 600 positions. I've worked with engineers. I've never actually worked with a water engineer. I don't know what that means. In my mind, immediately, I thought, oh, I bet she designs the flushing systems of all buildings. And that's possible. I mean, that's what she might do. I don't know. Anyways, I said to her, Jennifer, I don't really know what a water engineer is. Tell me what you do. That was the second time I asked her. And she says, well, I work with the towns of Denton and DeSoto. I work with Addison. I work with Richardson and McKinney. She says, I work with the HEB cities. I work with Midlothian. And she's going on and on. I work with Richardson, all the cities that surround Greater Dallas. And I said, well, that's an impressive bunch of people you work with, but I still don't know what you do. Third time I asked her. And she says, well, I work with their data. She says, I work with issues around climate and microclimate. I work with rainfall and water runoff. I work with population and population growth. I work with parkland per capita. And she's listing all these things that to me sound like a census study, right? So now I know she works with all the communities that surround Dallas. I know she works with all their data, a lot of their census data. I don't know what she does. So with all this information and all these cities, what do you do? Fourth time I asked her. She puts her head down, looking at her shoes, and she says, well, I write their 30-year water plans so that they don't run out of water and they can continue to grow. What? This gal is not got a boring job. For those of us who live in Dallas, she keeps us in hot showers and iced tea. I mean, I love this gal. This is someone that's necessary in our community. And I said, Jennifer, if I've heard you right, you're an economic development professional. You keep North Texans in water for decades to come. And you know what young Jennifer says to me? Can I say that? I said, yes, Jennifer, not only can you, but you should. Because the archetype here along the big yellow line is my work in a bigger context. Jennifer saw herself as a water engineer, and she still does the calculation work, but her impact on the world at large is much bigger than that. She's an economic development professional. What little trap that Jennifer found herself in was she was naming her profession based on the degree name that Texas A&M University had deferred on her 2 or 3, 4 years earlier. She had seen that and said, water engineer. Okay, that's what I am, water engineer. Much bigger than that. I'll stop and ask for another question. If not, I'm going on. On we go. What is the art of hello not? First of all, this is about you. This is about personal and professional branding, right? So it's not an advertisement for your employer. Now, in a few cases, I'm gonna have to get water, excuse me. In a few cases, I've met people who maybe are the founders of their company, as am I, but who very, very, very feel wed to their business's name, and they just feel like they couldn't let it go. Fine. I don't really agree with that. And it's not an advertisement for your employer. It is not bragging. Let me tell you what bragging sounds like. Some of you who might have caught this on LinkedIn found out that last week, my company was named to the top 10 recruiting companies in the nation by Forbes. Holy smokes, guys. I have a little business. That is an honor beyond honors. It's an amazing thing. So this is what bragging would sound like. Hey, you guys know that I'm one of the top 10 recruiting firms in the nation, according to Forbes. And if you don't believe me, come on down to Dallas and I'll show you my new Maserati. The gag reflex. It's crazy. It's bragging. It's nuts. So this is done right. This is not bragging. It is not everything you've ever accomplished. We talked about it not being a one-liner. You have pillars that fill out your experience. And when it's appropriate to offer those pillars, you do. It is not lifelong and permanent. As a matter of fact, I introduced you to Shauna Black. Well, she and I reconnected over the pandemic year. We got on Zoom together, and her business has changed pretty dramatically in the 10 years since she helped manufacturing plants become LEED certified. And we crafted a new wonderful Art of Hello introduction for her that she's using today. And in my opinion, the Art of Hello introduction is something your career cannot afford to be without. Look, all of us have worked long hours. All of us have educated ourselves. Many of us have advanced degrees or advanced credentials. All of us have been away from our families and friends at times that we would choose not to be if it was our choice. But we've made that investment in our careers. You deserve to have something given back to you, and that is to be remembered and to be identified as your brand promise. Why not? Why not? And this is a simple and free way to do that. So at the bottom, it says, this is not your old-fashioned elevator pitch. So let me answer the question from a few minutes ago. This is an honest to God, real elevator pitch that I heard delivered in person by a woman who spent a lot of time, and it was just, her delivery was perfect. Mine won't be. I'm not her. But let me tell you her elevator speech. I'm a senior manager in commercial insurance with a focus on multi-state workman's comp claim programs and risk consulting. I drive profitability and compliance via accountability, responsibility, and flexibility. I thrive in creating environments that are diverse, inclusive, and a little bit of fun. I'm a dynamic, principled, inclusive leader who builds teams and creates cultures of success. Where individual skills are developed, providing an exceptional customer experience, I meet or exceed company goals. I accomplish these company goals, personal development, and meet or exceed company expectations. That is delivered in 30 seconds in 88 words. Wow! Who knows what this person does? I ask you, what can you remember about that? For me, I was watching her deliver this, and it was so eloquent and so lovely that I was kind of caught up in the delivery, and I don't know if I heard what she said. I engaged with her and asked her to work with me on an Art of Hello introduction, and in about 10 minutes, this is what we landed on. In workmen's compensation insurance, I return injured workers to work faster. Now that I might remember. I return injured workers to work faster. That's what she was saying with a lot of 50-cent words. And it was all covered up in there. But now I know. So does that start answering the question about what an elevator speech is vis-a-vis what an Art of Hello introduction is? This is short. This is impactful. This is memorable. This is authentic. And it can be remembered. Where a 30-second drill, not so much, not so much. Do I have another question, or did I answer that sufficiently?
You have a 3-part question from Jeff Rudat.
Hi, Jeff.
It sounds like the Art of Hello is designed to 1, capture attention, 2, be memorable, 3, prompt people to ask you to tell them more. Is that accurate?
Oh, so accurate. Oh man, if my manuscript wasn't so far along, I would put that in there. In fact, Jeff, do me a favor, put that into chat for me, and I'm gonna ask Leora or Joyce to send me that. That is beautiful. And what I really like is the third one that you mentioned. It entices people to ask you more. And that is certainly true. And that's the beauty of it during a job search, for example. When you're networking and you meet new people, they'll say, oh, well, what does that mean? Or tell me more about that. Or how did you accomplish that? Now, isn't that what you want? You want that engagement. You want that link with somebody. You want to know that you're having a dialogue, not just a monologue. So you're dead on. That is, you get the Student of the Day award. If we were together, you know, I've been giving out really big Hershey bars for years. You would be a Hershey bar recipient. Thank you
very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that.
It's already in the chat. I have another question. How or where would one put AOH in LinkedIn?
At the top, man, at the top. Your name and this. Mine shows Paula Calise, expert at filling hard to fill jobs. Right there at the top. It goes at the top of your LinkedIn. That's how you want to be known. Because remember, that's not only who you are, but that's your brand promise. What a great thing to have, especially when you're in a job search. Your brand promise is right out there. And you know what? I was saying earlier that I've pulled a bunch of these people I've worked with like yourself, because I've spoken to Fang many times in a number of cities, and I've got a bunch of examples at the end. I'll recite some of the examples of some of your colleagues that have financial backgrounds. Okay, I need to go on because we're going to run out of time here. I'm going to introduce you to my next friend. His name is John. So I met John at a meeting. I went up to John, I introduced myself, and I said, John, tell me what you do. And this is what he said. My name is John. And he said, I am a commercial real estate guy. All right. I figured out he was a guy right from the get-go. That was not new news to me. And then just telling me commercial real estate, that's an entire industry. I still don't know what he does. That's an entire industry. So I wasn't very far along with meeting him by that. And I don't know why this occurred to me, but I asked him this question, which now I use every day in my business life as a recruiter. I said, John, tell me a point of pride, something that you are really proud of in your career. And he thought for a minute and he said, well, it's been a while back. He said, but when I was at the Nike company, he said, I was on a business trip in New York and I found myself in Times Square. And it was like the 1990s and it wasn't dolled up and beautiful like Times Square is today. He said it was kind of seedy, a little trash around, there was a little graffiti. I looked around and there was a building half empty, another building mostly empty. And he said, you know, it occurred to me that we at Nike might be able to use some of this fabulous real estate, right? That's his business. He said, and I went back to my office and I worked with the marketing people and I worked with the finance people and I pulled together a proposal to my management team and I dubbed it Nike Town. And he said, I want to open a Nike Town and this will be a big piece of real estate. He said, I'd like to have our merchandise for sale and a juice bar. And I'd like to have our merchandise for sale and a volleyball court. And I'd like to have our merchandise for sale and a coffee bar. And I'd like to have a merchandise for sale and the basketball court. And what he was imagineering in the 1990s is what you and I now call experiential retail. That term wasn't even invented until the last maybe decade, if even that long ago. But he was really out there thinking about how to accomplish this. So he said he tried to sell it in and he got turned down, try to sell it in, he got turned down, try to sell it in, he said, it took 3 years. They finally said, fine, make a project out of this, go build one, but do it in places where maybe if it fails, we won't be the laughing stock. So I can't really remember what John told me, but I know it was in Asia. So maybe it was Hong Kong, maybe it was Singapore, something like that. And they built a Nike Town, a big Nike Town with all these experiences along with their merchandise. And what happened? The first day it opened, there was a line around the block of people waiting to get in. And even better than that, the international trade press had picked it up, the international business press, and it was a sensation. John told me that during his tenure at Nike, they opened 6 of these around the world, and they were big and expensive. I thought, wow, John, that is very cool. What a great story. What a great point of pride story. He says, well, you know, Paula, while we're standing here, I can think of another one. Do you mind if I tell you another story? I said, no, please. What is it? He said, well, while I worked at Starbucks, he says, I was scouting locations. And it was late in the afternoon, about 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was on a highway and I was getting run down and tired and I just needed a cup of coffee. He said, I got off and I couldn't find many places to serve coffee, but I went through the McDonald's drive-through and I ordered coffee. And he said, yeah, it wasn't good. It was probably brewed that morning. Well, first of all, disclaimer, this was before Mac Cafe because now McDonald's coffee is fantastic. So before Mac Cafe. So he gets back on the highway and he's got this bad coffee in his hand. And he says, you know, I think we at Starbucks can do better than that. We can do better than that. So he goes back, this is kind of a familiar story, gets the marketing people together, finance people together, and he pulls together a proposal. He goes to the Starbucks leadership team and says, I want to develop drive-throughs. They've never been done before. And his management team said, yeah, no. We have brand advocates that come into Starbucks and they need to talk with the barista. They need to see that our counter has a live edge. They need to see that we have real leather furniture. And when the coffee beans are grind, they can hear it, they can smell it. We're not doing drive-through. And John persisted and he made one proposal after another until they finally said, fine, find 6 locations, upgrade them, get some drive-throughs going. And he chooses locations similar to what he did at Nike that were not in main big cities. There was none in New York, there was none in Dallas, but he chose secondary, tertiary cities so that he could experiment. So what happened after about 90 days of all these stores being open, they compared same-day sales in these stores that had drive-throughs to their sales last year. And that's a traditional way that retailers judge their success. And in every case, 6 out of 6 cases, Their revenue was up more than 10% in each store. I gotta tell you, for a retailer, that is fantastic. John tells me these two stories, and I say, John, if I heard you right, in commercial real estate, are you a billion-dollar brand builder on the back of old-fashioned brick and mortar retail? And John said, yeah, I think I am. Now, one of the things that I love about this, and I don't know if John's using this today, but one of the things I love about this is, first of all, the alliteration. Billion, builder, back, brick. I mean, these are the kind of alliterations that make information stick to the human mind. The other is there's a little social commentary in here, isn't there? First of all, there's nothing really old-fashioned about Nike and Starbucks. These are some of the best global brands, but there is something a little old-fashioned about brick and mortar retail in the age of Amazon. So there's that little social commentary that also helps this thing stick. The archetype here is the result of what I do. When John goes to work in commercial real estate, he's an inventor. He's thinking about new ways to bring product and services to their customers. He's not just picking out what corner the next Starbucks is going to be. He's thinking bigger than that. He's a billion-dollar brand builder on the back of old-fashioned brick and mortar retail. I love John. I just love John. I'm going to recommend that when we're done here today, each of you spend 30 minutes or maybe an hour crafting your art of hello introduction. And at the very end, I'm going to give you the 3 steps necessary to do that. So you don't have to imagine how to do it. I'll help you get there. And here's why. The ROI on this is enormous, right? Enormous. You're going to use it at the top of your LinkedIn profile. We just talked about that. We're going to use it anytime you have a bio. If your company allows you to, well, some of you are in transition. Right now, put that on your business card. Put it in your signature block, right? That's your brand. That's your brand promise. That's how you want to be known. Get it out there. When you start working for a company, if they have a website where your bio, that goes in your bio. Any of your social media, it goes in your profile of your social media. You will use your art of hello introduction thousands and thousands of times. What a great ROI on a half hour or an hour spent. Okay, I'm going to stop before I introduce you to my last couple friends. Do I have a question?
Nothing right now.
Then here goes. I'm going to introduce you to my friend Mike. So I'm in a meeting sitting next to a man named Mike. He introduces himself this way. He said, Paula, I'm a financial advisor. I put people over their financial finish lines. Ooh, I kind of like that, right? There's that sports thing. If you're swimming, you're touching the wall. If you're running, you're breaking the tape. I put people over their financial finish lines. Cool. So I invite Mike to coffee. He and I are having coffee. I pull out my notepad and I said, hey, Mike, tell me some stories of clients that really love you and the work you do. These are clients that would refer you to a friend. And he starts telling me, he tells me 6 stories. 6. A couple, a young person, a person with children facing college tuition, and so on and so forth. But let me share one story with you. He said, Paula, last January, I met a woman who was recently retired after 40 years of being a teacher. And I met her and she was living really close to the bone. And she was rather nervous that she would not have a fulfilled life in retirement because she felt so broke and poor. She had a little bit of money coming from the school district. She had a small Social Security. And he said, well, I started working with her and I found out it was not as dire as she thought it was, that she had spent the last 40 years helping other people's children thrive. And she had never spent any time helping herself learn about basic finance. So he said, I worked with her for a year. We made some changes, taught her some things. She learned issues around this. He said, I saw her the following January. And the first thing she said to me was this. She said, Mike, you changed my life. Oh my gosh, it makes me feel clamped to say this. She said, you changed my life. She said, this Christmas, last Christmas, I was not able to see my daughter and her children because I didn't think I had the money. She said, but this Christmas, I went and visited them. I bought them presents and I bought a plane ticket and I'm so much happier now. Wow, you changed my life. Wow, wow, wow. He didn't make her any richer. So he tells me all these 6 stories, and I say to him, Mike, you know, I'm not hearing this financial finish line thing. This is what I'm hearing from you, Mike. I help my clients feel comfortable and confident in their financial futures. That's exactly what he did with every one of the stories that he told me. Because no one had gotten over their financial finish line. Not one of the people he told me about had, bought a condo overlooking the ocean in Maui. Not one of them had retired at 50. Not one of them had bought a classic car from Jay Leno, nothing like that. No financial finish lines. But every one of them became more comfortable and confident in their financial futures. The archetype here is the essence of who I am, because here's Mike. If he had not chosen to be a financial advisor, he would have been a great, nurse. He would have been a great pastor, right? He had that warmth about him. He listened well. He made people feel good about their financial futures. And here's what else was very toxic to Mike. Although putting people over their financial finish line sounded good, it's disingenuous. It was not honest or truthful, authentic. It just was a tagline that he thought sounded good. And he was right, it sounded good. But not one of the people that love him most would ever say that to a friend. Hey, I'm a retired teacher. I'm going to talk to another retired teacher and I'm going to say, hey, this guy put me on my financial finish line. No, she's going to say, man, he's a good guy. He listens hard and he changes my life a little at a time. I love that. That is the proof that you have to be authentic about and that's why when people say the art of hello is a tagline, I take offense to that. It is not a tagline. It is the distillation of your professional life. Because the tagline, Mike had one, and a good one, a cute one, but it was not useful to him. It was not useful to him. I'm going to introduce you to my next friend. This is a dear personal friend of mine. This is Bill Wallace. If you lived here in Dallas, you would know Bill Wallace. He probably has the biggest personal network of anyone I've ever known. He runs something called Success North Dallas. He's gotten together on the 3rd Wednesday of every month with 200 to 400 people. And even during the pandemic, there's 200 or 300 of us online. He brings the best of the best speakers to his lectern every month. And what he says about himself is this: I introduce the right people for the right reasons at the right time. He is the consummate connector. Here's how I know this works so well. I'm doing this presentation inside the Epsilon company. Some of you know Epsilon, world's largest marketing company. Here in Dallas, a year or 2 ago when we were getting together, there are 800 people just in the Dallas location. And I was doing a piece of work for their internal career development, bring people's skills up to date and so forth. I was doing a session there. And a woman named Catherine was in the audience. Catherine called me a couple weeks later and said, hey, Paula, guess who I met? I don't know, Catherine, who'd you meet? She says, I met Bill Wallace. And I said, good, everybody should know him. She says, let me tell you how. She says, I was at a business meeting and my back was to a man. And that man said, I introduced the right people for the right reasons at the right time. She said, I spun around. I looked him in the eye and said, you must be Bill Wallace. Paula Calise told me you'd say that. And poor Bill's going, yes, that's me. And yes, Paula's my friend. And look, you don't even have to face somebody with your correct brand, with your correct art of hello introduction. It can be an environment people can hear it and still know you. In this case, that's Bill Wallace's repeated success. That's his archetype. That happens to be my archetype. I feel hard to fill jobs, hard to fill positions many, 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 many times over. Last person I'm going to introduce you to, and then we're going to do the how-to portion of this, is a woman named Christina. So I was doing this for a company that trains their leaders. So it's a leadership training company. They do this for the biggest companies in America. And we did it in a 2-hour session. We did this for an hour, and then we broke up in teams of 2 so people could work together on their art of hello introductions. And I see this woman, her name is Christina, and she's like, nah, I'm not buying this, not happy with this. I sit down and I say to her, hey, Christina, something wrong. What's going on here? And she says, Paula, it's not what I do to put food on the table that matters to me, that I want to be known for. It's this. And this is what I learned from Christina that day. Maybe I can get it to. By day, I sell cloud technology, and by heart, I advocate for organ donation. Because here's this young woman, I bet when I met her, she couldn't have been 30 or 32 years old, that had given away a kidney to a perfect stranger so that person could have a full and fulfilled life. Wow. I call this my aspiration. If you notice, the word and is here. This and that. This is sometimes how I help MBAs. Today I'm an SMU MBA on my way to being, or a law student. I'm a law student on my way to advocacy for, customers or plaintiffs and so forth, whatever, a good legal term. And so if there are two things that are driving you that are really part of your brand, you might use this. It still has to be concise, but it gives you an avenue not only to lay your hat down once, but lay your hat down twice if you do it right.
Paula,
Okay.
may I interrupt at this moment?
Mhm.
So I have a couple of questions here.
Okay.
How do you make sure it doesn't go from memorable to coming across as exaggerating?
Right. Sometimes it's corny, right? And
Yeah.
you have to judge that. First of all, does it sound good to you? Can you, in good faith, say it? And if it's corny to you, if it's exaggerated to you, if it's too grandiose, then it is. So you are the first test of that. And then I would say that's also a phone a friend moment. You call somebody and say, you think I can say this? And let them give you feedback on that. So that's a good question. Although I do like colloquial. Let me give you an example of colloquial that is, it borders on corny, but it works. So I go to a meeting and I'm doing this, and afterward a man comes up to me, he says, Paula, let me introduce myself. I said, great. He said, my name is Bill Nye, I'm the banking guy. Well, clearly that's a riff on Bill Nye, the science guy, right? This guy's, oh no, his name is Dan Nye, the banking guy. He said, oh, that is very cute. You get away with saying it. And he goes, I've been using that for 20 years. He said, people will call me 6 months later or a year later because they remember I'm the banker. I'm Dan Nye, the banking guy. So if you can use something colloquial, then, and it works for you and you feel comfortable, then do it. Fair enough. Any other question? Because we're going to run 5 minutes late today, guys. I can already see it. Go ahead.
That's okay. 5 minutes is fine. So another one is the person wants to understand better the singular focus of the art of hello versus a multidimensional generalist with many art of hellos.
Well, then I still think there's a way to talk about yourself in terms of your ability to solve a number of problems, or that kind of thing. And then you use your pillars to say, and I'm good at project management, and I have a background in accounting, and I can do this, and I can do that. So you put all those specifics into your pillars, but you still come up with an overarching distillation of your professional life. There's still a reason I would challenge you. There's still a reason that people call you. And that's what you want to get to. I'm not saying it's simple. I'm just saying it's worthwhile. Another question?
I have a question instead of typing. Let me just voice it. Who is the audience for this type of introduction?
The next person you meet, whether you meet them online in a Zoom call, whether you meet them in person, whether you meet them through your LinkedIn profile, whether you meet them through the top of your resume, the next person is your audience. And every person is your audience.
So it's not ultimately, let's say, somebody from your area of expertise.
No.
It's a broader audience who may not know what the technical term is.
So, okay, I'm finishing up a book. I have an entire section on how to use jargon, industry jargon. And I don't mean that derogatory. We all have industry jargon that we use, and it's very powerful. I recommend that for meeting people like at a conference who are going to maybe connect with you more deeply because they share a lot of knowledge, that you come up with a pillar that gives a little more information and documentation. And like I said, there's a whole chapter on this. The book will be published in the next 6 or 8 weeks, maybe sooner. I will let Joyce and Leora know that it's coming. You guys can put out a note and you can easily buy this on Amazon and read the whole chapter. We need to keep rolling now, though. I hope that helps you. All right, skip
One more question.
Okay.
Sorry. It is, you say that it's not a one-liner, yet each of the examples seem to be just that. What do you consider a one-liner to be?
Oh, it is a one-liner, but you are more than a one-liner. I am more than a one-liner. So my one-liner is, I feel hard to fill positions, but then all my pillars fill me out and give my listening audience more information only when it's practical to give them that information. It's not a core dump like an elevator speech. So yes, I am saying that an Art of Hello introduction is a one-liner, but you are not a one-liner. You are much more than that, and that's where your pillars fill you out. Is that more clear?
Jesse?
This is what—
I'm sorry,
Yes, it is.
Jim, I'm sorry.
Okay, so this is what the skippable mistakes are. The list method. I do this, I do this, I do this. I got to tell you, if you guys are, if any of you are CFOs or controllers, these are people that I've heard from the list method. Over the course of my career, I have supervised accounts payable, accounts receivable, bank reconciliations, closing, quarterly closing, monthly closing, da-da-da. I've worked with da-da-da. Yes, 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 yes. That's how you raise to the ranks to become a controller and then a CFO. But the list method doesn't work. You still have to have the distillation of your professional career, because that's the professional ranks that all of you have done. You can't differentiate yourself. It is not a chronological. I started working in 1997, and then I got promoted in 1999. I did this in 2004. Forget it. That's what your resume is for. People will not remember if you do a chronological. MBA speak. MBA speak is the way in which we want to sound smart. Let me give you an example of MBA speak. This is a real guy. I worked with him, right? This is how it started. He told me this first. I help companies free up resources by leveraging technology to enhance operational efficiencies by maximizing productivity and driving cost savings to the bottom line. 24 words. I could give you 400 guesses. You'll never guess what this guy does. I'll read it to you again. I help companies free up resources by leveraging technology to enhance operational efficiencies by maximizing productivity and driving cost savings to the bottom line. What? That is a lot to take in. After I worked with him, this is what we came up with. I'm your friend in the printing business. Would you ever imagine that all of that was a guy who owns a print shop? I'm your friend in the printing business. But he had all this crazy MBA speak, and I didn't absolutely know what he did, how I could remember it, who he was. Don't do it. Your job title, I think we used that earlier. Oh no, that's it. If you are a PM, a project manager, try not to use that job title. I went onto LinkedIn, and in the United States, people who list that next to their name, and then it says PM, project manager, 9,800,000. Holy smokes. You might as well just say, I breathe. So not your job title, unless your job title is very unique, like my friend Marilyn, she is the Dean of the School of Business at UNT. Well, there's one person who has that job title. So yeah, she can use that one. All right. It's not your degree name. We met young Jennifer. She thought she was a water engineer because that's what her degree said. And please don't use inconsistent language when you introduce yourself. You'll never be remembered. Now here's the beauty about being remembered. People will act in your behalf when you're not there if they know who you are and what your brand stands for. I told you, I haven't made a sales call in 10 years because my very big and loved network sells for me. When they hear somebody who can't fill a job, they say, oh, you have to call Paula. She fills hard to fill positions. That's why it's very valuable. People will bring you job opportunities. They'll bring you promotion opportunities. They'll bring you opportunities for partnering, all kinds of things when they can act in your behalf and you're not there. Okay, we are going to be out of time. I'm going to have to lean on you to ask if we should go through the rest of this. Yes? Should we try?
Yes,
Okay.
let's go through the rest of it since you're asking questions as we're going along. I know that people are asking what the pillar is. And
okay, so the
I'm not
pillar
sure that
is
everybody did the pre-assignment that we had.
The pillar is additional information that you give people when the opportunity arises. So my pillar is, Jeff, I'm going to help you fill this job the way you would for yourself if you had the time. And I only use that when I'm with hiring managers. When I'm with HR executives, my pillar is I save you money. When people say, well, what's a hard to fill job? And that was your point, that third point was get people to engage. Well, Paula, what's a hard to fill job? I have 3 stories about hard to fill jobs that just fall off my tongue, and I know what they're going to say. Each of these are a pillar that support my overall claim that I fill hard to fill positions. Okay, so that's what a pillar is. Career advancement and job seekers. You have an art of hello introduction. It informs the target market for your search or for your advancement. Any of you who say, well, I can work for any employer, I got transferable skills, I'm going to tell you that's not real world. Every client that has ever hired me in the last 13 years wants people from either in their industry or close to their industry or very knowledgeable about their industry because they want people to hit the ground running. So if you are an accountant and you come from a services industry, it's not the same as going into a manufacturing plant that's going to have cost of goods sold and inventory aging and those kind of things. It's just your employers will not see those skills as easily transferable. So you might as well say what you're really good at and then go to that part of the job market and invest yourself in finding a job there. If you have an art of hello introduction and you're real clear about who you are and what your brand delivers, it demonstrates you're conscious competent. It sets you apart from most people who are blah, 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 blah. They don't know what to say about yourself. It prepares you for the horrible question that every one of us has asked and none of us like. Tell me about yourself. Well, where do you start? I was born in Poughkeepsie. I mean, is that where you start? You don't start there. You got to start somewhere. You start with your art of hello. And then have those pillars ready for many conversations. Do you want to spend a few minutes on the poll, Leora, or no? Yes, no, hello?
Sorry, it's up to you if you'd like to.
What this poll covers, and we won't cover it, is how many people do you think have great introductions? I will tell you about 90% of, and I've given this poll to 4,000 people. They say about 90% of people don't have good introductions, and I agree with that. How many words would you think a great art of hello introduction is? There's 2 good answers for this, 7 to 10 words or 5 to 7 words. If you can get it down to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 words, you are in the sweet spot. If you go to 11, 12, 13, 14 words, the reason that's going to be hard is you really, really want people to describe you exactly the way you describe yourself. The longer it is, the harder that is going to be. And the last question comes up, and would you like an art of hello introduction for yourself? Unless I've not done my job here, usually 95% of people say, yeah, I want to do this. So this is how we do it together. We have a handout here. Joyce will either put this in chat if you can pull it down. She can send this to you in your email if you ask her to do that. You don't have to take notes. This is kind of the capstone of everything we've said today. This is how you do it for yourself. Step 1, know yourself. See the forest for the trees. This is not all the details that you've done all these years. It is the overarching impact of what you deliver and how people will know you. See the pattern across your successes. I'm going to highly recommend, if you can, you do this with a partner. One person talks, the other person takes notes and listens, active listening. What are 6 successes or 6 accomplishments that you've had? It doesn't have to be in your current job or your most recent job, but tell me about what you do well. And that's an example of meeting John when he said, oh, I worked at Nike and I did this, and I worked at Starbucks and I did this, and I assimilated that for him, right? So that's what happens when you work in 2 people. So 6 accomplishments or successes, or a 360-degree look at a big job that you've done. You've done a big piece of work. What did your boss say about you? What did your coworkers say or think about you? What did the people who reported to you say or think about you? What did your internal or external partner think about you or say about you? If you can create that 360, you'll learn a lot about who you are, what you deliver, and why people come to you to get things done. Or what do your fans say about you? If you've worked more than 2 or 3 years in your whole life, you have fans. There are people who like the work you do. They like working with you. They like relying on you. Go back and ask those people, why do you like working with me? What do I deliver? Tell me about me. And see about what your fans say, or your biggest, baddest accomplishment. And that was the first person we met was Karen. Karen did this, Karen did this, Karen did this, Karen did this, Karen did this. My ears started bleeding. But we turned out her biggest, baddest thing is she revitalized that tired brand. And you might want to talk about yourself in that way. When you've done what I've just said, then go back, and this is just a curiosity. You don't ever have to stop here. But, oh, I wonder which of the archetypes is me. You know, it's one of these, probably. Well, I tell you, I've done thousands of them. It's never been one that didn't fall into one of these categories. Then develop your pillars. This is step 2. Then develop your pillars. These are your credentials, your notable successes. They can be targeted to different audiences, and get them down where you can just have them slap off the top of your tongue. You know, memorize your best work and your best stories so it sounds very unpracticed. Then test. And this is something that someone asked earlier, what if it sounds grandiose or corny? Well, the first is your gut check. How does it sound to you? Is this something that you can say and look someone in the eye and feel good about it? And then, is it clear? Is it actual? Is it specific, brief, honest? And you know, that's my CASBA test. Check to see that all those things are there. And then phone a friend. Hey, here's my art of hello introduction. Does it sound like me? And then ask them, what did I just say to you? Can you repeat it? If they can repeat it verbatim, wow, that's a home run. I mean, someone might not be able to do it on hearing it the first time, but if you said it a second or third time and they can repeat it, you are on to something. That is really, really great. Okay, I got one little thing and then we're done. So you're all in financial professions here. And I've just gone through, I keep these, I file many, many art of hello introductions for myself. And I wanted to read a couple of them to you. These are all controllers. And now all these people have, you might say, well, I'm a controller, you're a controller, you're a controller. We all have kind of the same job. Yeah, but this is how different people can talk about themselves because not all of you have the same experiences and are the same people. One of my favorites is this one. Every CFO needs a great controller. I'm that guy. Wow, what a declaration. And how easy to remember is that? Another guy I was working with said, I help companies keep more of the money they earn. I like that too. Another person I was working with, it was a woman, she said, from accounting to insurance, I do the numbers. I get that. It's easy to understand, I get that. Another person used a little bit bigger language. He said, accounting wizard, no magic, just precision. I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. He and I worked on that and we landed there and he said, I feel comfortable with that. Another one said CFO, financially minded, process driven. I like that too. So you can see people in the same profession end up saying very, very different things about themselves because they have different experiences, different outcomes of the work they do. Thank you for having me. I love speaking with FANG people. You know, I'm a recruiter. I feel hard to fill positions. If you ever want to refer me, I'd be thrilled. I speak on the art of hello to businesses, to professional organizations. I do keynote addresses, panel, well, not too much panels. I don't think I can do that. And then I'm a connector. So if you would invite me to your LinkedIn network, I'd be honored to be part of your network. I'll take a last question and be done.
Paula, the last question I have here is if you will be providing the slides for the attendees.
I will not, but it is recorded.
Okay.
Right?
Oh,
Joyce,
might have had one. Yes, we recorded it. So you'll be able to see it on the recording.
Yep.
Thank you.
Invite me to another organization in New York. I'd love to do that. And
I actually have someone here on that may invite you to another organization, and also we may invite you to other chapters as well. So
all good, all good, all good. You guys have been delightful. You've had good questions, and I do appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
You too. Thank you, Paula.
I'm going to try to sign out if I can.
It's okay. So I'm Leora Gill, and I help COOs sleep better. So, as I mentioned earlier, we are still looking for volunteers for our New York chapter. So if anybody would like to volunteer, I know we had Enzo last time and I will reach out to him, but if there's anyone else who would like to volunteer, as we said, it's something that you can put on your resume for a gap. You can also put that on your LinkedIn. And then that helps with your SSI score that you have something in there. Another point we have right now, we have openings for the New York Job Club. We've had many landings. So if anyone is interested in the New York Job Club, please let us know. We had the job support group for a while because all the job clubs were full. But now that we have openings again, we are going to continue with just the job clubs. So if anybody's interested, Joyce had put her contact information in the chat. If not, you can find her email on the website, on the FANG website. Jeff, I'll speak to you about it later about what the volunteers do, but it's basically same like what you've been doing. I don't know if everybody knows, Jeff is also one of the board people for the LHH alumni TGIW group that meets weekly. So, and he's also an FENG member. So is there any other questions that anybody may have about the FENG? Is everybody familiar with the website? We have a new website now. We encourage you to use it. We encourage you to visit other chapters. We have people here from other chapters that visited us today. I know some people had to drop off, but if anyone is from another chapter, I would love for them to speak up and let us know. You're also welcome to visit chapters in other continents. Simha, I don't know if you're still on here, but Simha I know is visiting everybody everywhere. So we have our Mexico chapter, we have our UK chapter, we have our France chapter. I've visited all of those so far. And we have chapters across the USA. So also if you're looking to perhaps move, or you have a remote job in that area, you may be interested in networking with someone from somewhere else. And even if it's the same field, it gives you an opportunity to network with others in your field, even though they're across the country. So does anyone have any other questions for us? Does anyone want to practice their new art of hello? Don't be shy. This is your opportunity.
I do have a question, Leora. Where are the recordings available if you want to go back and watch the recording?
So the recording should be on the site. And I believe we also have our YouTube channel, so you can find them there.
Thank you.
We only started recently putting them on there. And if you missed a recording and we don't have it, check the website, because the speakers that I've had here, I've actually introduced them now all over. So they're speaking throughout the nation, and we've already had one of them speak in the UK, and we're recommending them for other chapters as well. So that way all of us can meet, and I'm going to try to speak to other chapters and see any speakers that they may have that may be of interest for us that we haven't heard of yet on the East Coast. Okay, nobody wants to practice their art of hello? This is your opportunity. I'm sure everyone's going to be very kind to you. Okay, I'll do mine again. I'm Leora Gill. I help CEOs sleep better by reducing costs, increasing revenue by 600%, and mitigating risks. Anyone else want to practice? Okay, so for next month, we are going to have Pat Rumboletti. I know that there are many people on here who have already been to her Zooms. On Thursday night, she's very popular. She's an executive recruiter, job coach out of Atlanta, Georgia. And on a Thursday night, she gets up to almost 900 people on her Zooms. So I think you'd find her very interesting. Her advice is invaluable. She often gives us little takeaways that she emails it out to us afterwards that we can use. And I highly recommend that after you hear her, you join her Zoom. You'll find out why she's so popular. Actually, even at the end, she even stands by the exit of the Zoom and says goodbye to anyone who's still around. We can all say goodbye to her individually and in any language you feel like.